All right, my name's Leo. This is a new piece. It's entitled Room 134, I Want You to Be My Dealer. Love is a crucifixion playing out on the wallpaper of my brain, mummified in family photos, crowded with the unembraceable, but I want you to be my dealer, selling God in a fistful of pharmaceuticals. One dream for the sun, one dream for the moon, tracing the lines of my palm with holy water, anointing my eyes and my lips with snake oil until I dance inside 1,000 sacred trembling visions, shaken from the juniper and the yew, and I am finally known before I'm euthanized by the ones who will say he was miserable. And he's in a better place now, but I'm glad the evening's migraine pounding inside the basement of my skull has been laid to rest. So I can return to my visitation of the sick, to the sanctuary, and a prayer book in my blazer pocket that I produce with deft, fine motor gestures like a Zippo and a pack of smokes, the body of God. Dead and present, but you only want the ghost of the God of love, so you won't be burdened by the repository of memory-making flesh, because not seeing, embracing, tasting, hearing is the fantasy made invisible. To live in that non-space is to commit suicide in this real space. Come on, baby. God is love, and if God is not here, then God is dead. And not just dead, but dead and gone. Gone, baby. All fucking gone. Being that fails in the most ontological fashion, and the other who owns you, both kills you and keeps you. But in that space of non-being, in the end, it's all the same, because we are flesh. And we feel, and we imagine, and we remember, and we encounter God and love at the deepest levels of our cellular structure and at the most primordial and original levels of consciousness. A soul is nothing if it is not a beating heart, a brain on fire, and I just can't stop feeling the breath of God in the most physical way, because life is just a brief gasp, a loud dream passing and strange, and a night on the train that takes us from consciousness to shades of memory. But most people are content to live like strangers, demanding that everybody look like them, think like them, talk like them, smell like them, act like them. Animated corpses filling up houses manufactured on the assembly line of common hallucinations by cold-fingered peddlers of modular dreams, waking up next to a blank-eyed abstract in space and time who is just a cadaver in the ongoing experiment in human alienation. This is my generation. No great minds destroyed by madness, no beautiful last jizz of consciousness, because consciousness and madness are lost in primitive arts beneath the dignity of a timid, trembling Puritan tribe of long-skirted saints and choir directors in the vegan academies of the state, where the most bourgeois of the members of the Western construct pretend to be unbridled while consummating their marriage to the Pentecostal women's auxiliary. My generation is the bored couple, married to conventions and prefabricated dreams. Sitting in front of the fireplace at the local cadaver bar and not talking, their eyes oscillating between greasy platters and cell phones, sending texts with swollen cheeks stuffed with meals of flesh, eating what they wish to forget, the dead and the dead and gone. Substituting fat and the common yawn and life management seminars for real consummation, lost somewhere between the last grocery store run and the purchase of a new sofa, until she says to him, "Are you ready?" And he looks at his full drink and mumbles a cold yes as he stands up and pulls on his coat like the preacher I saw at breakfast with his, quote, beloved wife, unquote. The one made famous by his naked Sunday public exhibition sermonizing about a Proverbs 31 glory in the most conspicuously transcendent manner. Drinking orange juice and reading the paper without a single word or affectionate gesture, because marriage is a performative exercise and only for moments of public scrutiny, while she gazes in a state of abandonment around the Bob Evans dining room looking for somebody else to love, where she won't be just a simple metaphor without flesh and bone and hunger. So we domesticate ourselves and our others whom we purchase like pieces of furniture with Prozac and personal ambition and modular moral structures built with an erector set in the already dead subdivisions of our gutless capitulation, crippling our minds and silencing our screams of discontent, but the insatiable demand for honesty in all of its perfect subjectivity. The ache inside our chest for love in all of its power and beauty and grace lives forever, and no post-human dream of singularity and the mechanization of human experience will ever be able to stop its breath as my other self fills my lungs with the hushes that whisper comfort into the orgy of fragmented dreams that haunt me in the night. When she came to me in my cheap, cold motel room, she was beautiful, with shivers of snow, and this generation's cold, suburban loneliness clinging to her flesh like a poisonous residue. And I was fucked up alone in a cosmos outside my brain, comprised of my father's inarticulate dreams and my own screams, getting swallowed in the echoless vacancy of empty winter fields, and the relentless wind, visiting and revisiting frozen memories and their attendant imaginings discarded by the jaded like forgotten trips to the drive-in with forgettable dates. She brought her family, but they waited in the car beneath a blanket of blown insulation, wondering what this visitation would imply, and a black umbrella stolen from a New York City dream of rain on Park Avenue kept the snow from her eyes on the walk from her car to my room, and her family rocked out to David Bowie and his vision of transfiguration, while she paid her tithes to the God of fools with a handful of kisses lifting the veil of my consciousness, and the pedestrians walking across the large mammalian frontal cortex left my large mammalian frontal cortex left behind the footsteps of mystical goats on sidewalks of flesh. But dime store real estate kings leave behind pamphlets offering mobile homes at low, low rates in vacant lots with the views of the dirty cinder block shoulders of shopping malls and big box stores and tanning salons, promising the presence of God hidden in ritualized gestures of commodification and consumption, and human memory is reduced to scraps of fast food wrappers and yesterday's news awash in the gutter of a socio-political construct built on the frail shoulders of the dying American dream. And its affluent and homeless multitudes lost in the long and orphan night of the last gasps of the Western Empire. Love now or forever abandon your heart. And all I know for sure is this: I'll take my chances with those mystical goats. And her words flow from inside her chest, filled up with voices and longings, brushing against my neck, and her eyes are still deep pools in a forest of hushes where wishes are whispered into the wind, with the hope of finding a sacred other who hears. I wish I was a painter. I wish I was Modigliani, drunk and hopeful and resting in an ancient snowy evening, dance with the incense of prayer to Yahweh and Eros and St. Jude of the impossible. Then I could bleed a vision on the flesh and breathe the breath of life into the image of clay and wood and steel, the image rejected by the mirror, a relic image that sanctifies my existence and its origin in a strange barn of shadows and tractors and hills of wheat and chaff dancing wildly in snatches of sunlight, mingling with crucifixes that lean toward the morning, where the field hands and diggers of sacred graves enter at the east to begin their labor with hands of stone and hearts alone in silence in the shadow of the Western prayer. But all I have are words blown into an empty cathedral where I've waited in the presence of God for far too long. Smoke from the wick of a $2 candle, the incense from an Easter vigil, burnt tobacco, fresh with the residue of my heart and lungs, smelling peculiarly human, with its abundance of memory-making cells, and then gone, baby, all gone. Just a rare dream, and I don't want to wake up. From the moment your eyes took up residence in my eyes, and I looked away from the fields of dying wheat to the epiphany of you, and the thin wisp of your presence, for the space of a single breath, I could believe in God again. The God of smoke and mirrors made flesh and bone in the space and time of you suddenly, standing in the grotto where human memory and imagination dust our faces with the ashes of cremated icons, and then the bad dreams of money-making machinery and its cold, cold comfort returns, and God turns back into smoke, just spent smoke. But for a moment. Her whispers echo and bleed into my screams in the same empty suburban field, and she becomes my savior. Before she returns to the cloister of convention and the ones who don't need her, because they are rescued by their routines and their redemption is for sale at the local Walmart, when the night becomes an orgy of ragged dreams and disembodied voices resounding inside the avenues of our skulls, morning comes and the safe ritual of a clock-punching